Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. Chapter number 11, The Mystery of Sex Transmutation, Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. Right? This is an essential reading. Napoleon Hill is the godfather of the personal development space. He went and interviewed Andrew Carnegie, who was the richest man at the time, and he's really put together the formula for developing an abundance mindset, which then creates an abundance life reality for you as well. Okay? Now, as he talks about in the text, the emotion of sex is the most powerful driving force behind man. And because we are misinformed, because we are miseducated, because we have been confused and conditioned with the marketing messages, with our schools, like no one really tells us how to go about implementing this concept into our lives, right? The emotion of sex is such a powerful force. As Napoleon Hill talks about, it is the most powerful force in the entire universe. But we go through our lives without even getting a lesson on it. We have been getting these marketing messages, which is like a subtle sense of, you'll be more sexy if you do this. But at the end of the day, it is just still a taboo surrounded in it. And there is a lot of reasons for why this is the case, okay? Now, I have my own theories, but I'm just going to quote Napoleon Hill over here, who says that the emotion of sex brings into being a state of mind. Because of ignorance on the subject, the state of mind is generally associated with the physical, and because of improper influences to which most people have been subjected in acquiring knowledge of sex, things essentially physical have highly biased the mind. Okay? So this emotion, this energy is always there. But because we associate something physical with it, we have this bias, we have this taboo in society, we have religious, corporate religion, which has really suppressed it, which has caused us to repress it, which is causing us to really go down other paths so that we express this energy, because buried emotions never die. And since sex emotion is the most powerful force in the universe, it's never going to die. It's just going to come and express itself in different ways, which is why we have, for example, in the country that I'm brought up in, it's highly conservative. Sex is highly taboo. It's highly suppressed. It's highly repressed, right? Any expression of it is like looked down upon. You're like going to be excommunicated from the society, right? Now, on the flip side, we have another correlation whereby in my country, the most amount of searches for animal porn come from this country, okay, Pakistan over here. Now, is that a correlation between the suppression of sexual desire and the expression of it coming out in weird ways? There's definitely a correlation over there, okay? Now, Napoleon Hill talks about 3 constructive ways to express our sex energy, okay? Because if you are currently in this situation, you're practicing semen retention, you're practicing nofap, you're going through this, you're like, yo, I was addicted to porn for a while, now I need to get rid of this habit, then how can we actually express this energy? Because that energy is the most powerful force in the universe, as you will find out in the rest of this video, is the driving force behind geniuses, behind world builders, behind people who have left a dent in the universe. The emotion of sex was actually driving them to create these results in their life, okay? Now, Napoleon Hill talks about the 3 constructive potentialities for the expression of sex energy, okay? The first one is the perpetuation of mankind. Of course, if you want to create another life, if you want to go and spread your seed, and you're doing it to create a human, create this other entity, rather than emptying it out in your toilet, into your tissue paper, into your bed sheets, right? That is deconstructive. But constructive is when you actually use it to create another life being, another perpetuation of your genes, and another perpetuation of mankind, okay? Now, the second constructive potentiality is the maintenance of health. As Napoleon Hill talks about, as a therapeutic agency, it has no equal, right? Now, I'm going to be making another video on this as well, so keep an eye out. Subscribe if you haven't already. But I'm going to be talking about some Taoist secrets, some ancient Taoism on how they looked at sexuality as a bridge towards actually healing our body as well, right? Sexual healing. So now the third potentiality is what I will be focusing on this video. It is the secret of masters, right? and that is the transformation of mediocrity into genius through transmutation. Okay, now transmutation simply means to transform this energy into something else, right? We've been conditioned to associate the sex emotion with something physical, right? But transmutation is when we can really transform that energy, right? Because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form into another, right? So it can either be transformed into something that all your organs put energy into creating, the seed, which can then be spilled into your toilet, into your tissue paper if you're addicted down that route, or it can be used to like go into your body, transmute that, and really unlock your genius, right? Now, genius is something that is a term thrown around a lot, right? The first person that comes to mind is usually Einstein or something like that. But according to the Roman culture, where this term actually came from, genius was like this entity that every child was born with, right? It was like this separate entity that everyone, by virtue of being human, had access to, right? So it's not something that you are, it's something that you have access to. And as Napoleon Hill talks about, sex energy and the transmutation of it is what allows us to unlock our own genius and access these higher thought forms, right? So I'm just going to give you the definition of a genius as Napoleon Hill puts it over here. So he says, the definition of a genius is a man who has discovered how to increase the intensity of thought to the point where he can freely communicate with sources of knowledge not available through the ordinary rate of thought, right? So it's really about connecting to this higher source, connecting to, as Napoleon Hill puts it, our finite mind of man to the infinite intelligence, right? Infinite intelligence as a label, whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it God, the universe, your higher self, whatever it is. Creative imagination is our sixth sense that allows us to access that. And of course, the energy of sex is the source of our creativity, right? Think about it. Your drive to procreate, your drive to spread your seed is the same drive behind you actually being creative. And when you can transmute it from that desire to express yourself physically into expressing yourself creatively, that is when you tap into these higher sources of knowledge, these higher sources of thought, this higher frequency of thought, this higher vibration of being, whereby you are able to express avenues and ideas and stuff that you have within you in a way that was not possible for you before, okay? Because I've made videos about semen retention and sex transmutation and nofap a lot in the past, and a common concern that comes up again and again and again is that of how can I avoid wet dreams? How can I avoid relapsing? How can I just quit this habit when I can't stop? And the reality is that if you are having wet dreams, I'm going to make another video on this, on how you can actually stop doing that. There's some physical exercises you can do. But if you are going through the motions, we're experiencing wet dreams right now, then the reality is that you are not transmuting that sexual energy. Thereby, your body is being forced to express that energy in a different way in your dreams, whereby you are going through that experience, okay? And if you feel like it's very hard and you can't stop, like, part of it, of course, is that your brain has become rewired to favor porn, right? To favor that ejaculation, to favor that releasing of that seed, which is a short-term pleasure, but the long-term, it destroys your personal magnetism. It destroys your ability to show up as a man in your full power, right? And that's because you are untrained in your ability to actually transmute that sexual energy. You are not expressing yourself creatively. You are not tapping into those higher sources, which would allow you the ability to actually transmute that creative energy and express itself out in the world, okay? So this is just a quick introduction on the power of sex transmutation, which is the driver and the secret behind masters. As Napoleon Hill talks about over here, the genius, he talks about a bunch of different geniuses, right, which we refer to as geniuses in our current society, as this bird is going crazy right now. But he has some examples of people, of men who really left their dent in the universe, and how they used sex energy transmutation to achieve those results, right? Some examples are George Washington, Napoleon Bonaparte, William Shakespeare, Abraham Lincoln, Ralph Waldo Emerson, John H. Patterson, Albert Hubbard. Like, these are men, Thomas Jefferson, that really like impacted millions of lives. And to this point, they have created that domino which has led to where we are right now, right? And as Napoleon Hill puts it, sex energy is the creative energy of all geniuses. There never has been and never will be a great leader, builder, or artist lacking in this driving force of sex. Okay, but it's not only about having that driving force, it's about how to transmute it. And because there is a conception in modern society to suppress it, to bring taboo around it. Now, why is this the case? I told you that I have my own theories around this stuff. Well, look at it like this, man. If you look at an ox, right? An ox is a castrated bull. An ox is docile. An ox is obedient. An ox follows instructions, right? Now, what is this similar to? I compare this being similar to that of pornography. Pornography is the mass castration of the divine masculine, right? When you compare an ox to a bull is just wild. It's going crazy. It doesn't give a shit. It's going to do what it wants right now. But when you castrate it, when you take away its male sexual energy, then it becomes an ox, it becomes docile. And now that I think about it, a large part of what actually spread the internet was pornography as well. It's what played a large part in actually bringing the internet to the mainstream. Now, whether this was a ploy to actually castrate men and bring them into control and bring them into order so that they follow instructions, or whether this is something that you have fallen into, that we have fallen into collectively, right? I mean, I've definitely been there, but once I got an awareness of the power of sexual transmutation, the power of my seed, and how spilling it is depriving me of my own power, that is what really makes the shift towards using this energy to create in our lives, to create a life that we love through the way that we behave. Okay, just a quick introduction to the practice of sex transmutation. Definitely check out Think and Grow Rich if you have not yet, because this is really the foundation of personal development. Every other book that you read out there in the mainstream is definitely influenced by this, right? It has been known as a source that has created more millionaires, more billionaires, more riches in this world than any other source out there. And I remember when I was 17, I first read this book, and I really just skimmed through the chapter on sex transmutation. I'm like, I don't know what this whack stuff is right now, but as you dive deeper, you realize that it is really the driving force behind everything else. Okay, so just a quick introduction. I'm going to be making a bunch of other videos on the practices of semen retention in Taoism, in Hinduism, according to the Bhagavad Gita, according to Stoicism. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But I hope that you got value from this video, and I'll see you in the next one.